It's another Wednesday. Here we are, and we're just watching the really sort of it is just stunning to watch what's happening with the coronavirus outbreaks in places like Florida and Texas and Arizona. There's actually 9 states, I think it is, that are having outbreaks. Here it is: Alabama, Arizona, Florida, Nevada, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Carolina, and Texas. They either reported new single-day highs for coronavirus cases or a record for 7-day new coronavirus cases in terms of an average over those 7 days. That's according to the Washington Post. As you know, at least 115,000 people in the U.S. have died of coronavirus. There have been more than 2.1 million cases reported. And, you know, we still, when we look at the national numbers, it looks like it's stable, because what has been happening is that New York, which was a massive, obviously the epicenter, I mean, arguably, well, not arguably, I mean, for the world, had the biggest hotspot, was the biggest hotspot. As those numbers continue to go down, I think largely because people understand what the worst of it looks like in this area of the country, the Northeast in particular. So people are wearing masks when they go out. They are trying to maintain social distance. Apparently, what I'm reading now is that 20 and 30-year-olds going to bars is right now, aside from obviously like nursing homes are probably a little more protected than they were at the beginning of this thing. Meat processing plants and churches still remain places where you see clusters. But the other transmission is coming from people going to bars in their 20s and 30s. And in Arizona, you have a situation where there's at least one hospital that's saying that they have only one more ICU bed. People at the emergency rooms are starting to say, like, this is, we're seeing the wave now that we didn't see before. The increase in hospitalizations and ICU and ventilator usage is what apparently is really troubling for people in Arizona. In Texas, Governor Abbott is starting to sound a little bit more cautious about things. Nothing to worry about, but people really got to pay attention. It's not so much we got to let the old people die anymore. We're not hearing that as much in Texas. In Florida, you're starting to see more reports, and we're still at the front end of this wave that is continuing in these places around the country. And we still have massive questions about things like transmission, about how many people suffer from, survive, but then live with the implications of COVID. And what are those? Dialysis, maybe there's kidney failure, other problems. We don't know for sure if the infection rates are declining, and where and under what circumstances. We don't have a sense of how much immunity you get if you've had it. We don't have a sense of do other coronaviruses, as opposed to the COVID-19, has that made people immune? We're not even sure about if you are asymptomatic, are you more or less, as opposed to pre-symptomatic, able to transmit it? We're not really sure about kids. There's a lot of questions that we have, And part of the reason why I think these questions haven't been answered is because the federal government has completely abdicated its role. I mean, are they even doing press conferences now? Brendan, do you ever come across even a press conference from anybody at Health and Human Services saying, this is how many people we are at 116,000 deaths or new cases? There doesn't seem to be any sort of awareness that North Carolina, say, or Texas, say, or Arizona, say, or Florida is not like Australia or New Zealand. They're connected to the rest of the country. You can just drive or walk across the border of these places. And there doesn't seem to be any concerted effort to deal with this whatsoever. And it's just sort of a Mike Pence. The only, in fact, federal response that we're seeing is Mike Pence writing an op-ed saying, we got no problems with this, mission accomplished. We just got a little bit of it here and there, little sprinklings, not going to be a problem. So in this total absence of a federal response to the coronavirus, it creates a vacuum. And for people and locations that have not experienced the worst of it, there is an overconfidence. And this is not something that you can go back 2 or 3 weeks ago and change. In other words, the die is cast. What's going to happen today was written 2 to 3 weeks ago. What's going to happen from a month of today is written today. So, again, with the absence of any type of concerted national effort to deal with this, you get idiots like, what's his name? Aubrey Huff. He's a
former baseball player.
Yeah, he played for a bunch of teams, didn't he?
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, I think Detroit, maybe Orioles. San Francisco.
Yeah.
He was a journeyman. You know what that tells me? A-hole. Nobody liked him on the team. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's not hard to believe. Apparently, he tweeted out something a day or two ago saying something like, I'm not going to wear my mask. And then he got upset because people responded to him. And so he did this video with the title, Take Your Coronavirus Mask and Stick It Where the Sun Don't Shine. That's a very clever saying that, I think was made most famous probably 50, 60 years ago. Now, the irony of that is that one of the things you got to be careful of is, in fact, public restrooms, because fecal matter can be aerialized and when it's flushed, and you can catch it that way. So not necessarily the worst idea to stick your coronavirus mask where the sun don't shine, but you also still need one on your face. But here is Aubrey Huff explaining why he doesn't need it.
I posted a tweet yesterday about no longer willing to comply for wearing a mask inside a grocery store. And the liberal left, the soy boy professors, and the blue checkmark crazy cat ladies were in unison guilt shaming me for threatening the lives of millions of innocent people.
Pause it for a second. I just want to make it clear. I'm not going to guilt shame him, whatever that means. What is guilt shame? I make him feel bad because he's feeling guilty? No, I'm going to mock him because he's an idiot. But continue.
Blue checkmark crazy cat ladies were in unison guilt shaming me for threatening the lives of millions of innocent people. Now, if you want to wear a mask and live in fear the rest of your life, it's certainly your prerogative, but the vast majority of well-adjusted, sane, common sense people that aren't sheep, that can reason for themselves, agree with me. I understand the coronavirus is real. And if you have pre-existing conditions or you're an old person, and I know this sounds insensitive, but somebody has to say it, you are morbidly obese, then stay the fuck home. Just because that is your plight in life doesn't mean the whole world has to shut down. You know, I was at the grocery store today, and the two ladies that were checking me out were wearing these masks. And I love to make people like that smile and laugh and have a great conversation. You couldn't even see the wrinkles in their eyes with their smiles. They looked so beat down and run down. This is not a selfish thing for me. This is a thing for me to try and free Americans so they can freely breathe. It's not healthy to breathe in your own CO2 all the time. And it seems like everybody's a coronavirus expert. Listen, if I, God forbid, get the coronavirus, guess what I do? I go home, I get well, and I go back and live my life. I would rather do that. Hell, I would rather die from coronavirus than to live the rest of my life in fear and wearing a damn mask.
So there's a couple of things here. The too long don't read is he's not very bright guy. The other version is just that we see this tribalism. It's so intense that, I mean, first off, nobody's suggesting that you wear a mask all the time. It is really when you go out in public, particularly people that you don't know, people that you don't have a sense of where they've been. The real concern is that when people are asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic, they're not aware that they're sick with COVID, so they don't go home and stay indoors and not infect other people. Nobody's suggesting that you wear a mask for the rest of your life either. At one point, this will end. But just because we can't pick a date, a grown man should be able to wrap their heads around the concept that just because we can't say this is going to be over on July 7th, 2020, doesn't mean that it's going to go on for the rest of their life. I mean, that is literally a conversation I've had to have with my 7-year-old son. And frankly, he gets it. But the idea that this guy is saying that we need to stop having masks because I can't see the ladies at the checkout counter smile at me is pretty rich. And of course, this genius, for whatever reason, thinks that if you wear a mask at the supermarket, then you're sucking in your own CO2 all the time. Why doesn't he rush over to the hospital where these medical professionals are wearing masks all day at work and tell them of this new thing that he's found out about CO2? And maybe he can do like some dancing and joking around in front of all the medical professionals so they can laugh. And maybe for his sake, they can all draw smiley faces on their masks so he feels better about it. The idea that this has become some type of cultural signifier and that I am a soy boy because I have read all of the research that suggests masks cut down the transmission rate significantly it's just bizarre. But he's a loser. He must be, I don't know. Is he, I mean, what do you think he's probably trying to launch some type of YouTube thing, or is he just trying to get on to OWN, or what is it? What's going on with that?
I think he's had something of a AM talk radio, he fills in sometimes. I think
is that right?
To launch that, culture warrior post-career thing. Yeah.
Nice. Where is what's his face? Who was
Travis?
on the Sox? Where was coming out of Tampa Bay? He came from Tampa Bay as well, too, didn't he? The guy from Rhode Island. I can't even remember his name now. I've had to block him out. He had the bloody sock.
Curt Schilling.
Yeah, Curt Schilling. Hey. Well,
I don't know where he's been actually.
There you go, folks. All right, we're going to take a quick break and move on to another topic. When we come back, we'll be talking to Jay Willis. He's a senior contributor at The Appeal. We're going to talk about that ruling from the Supreme Court just on Monday